good morning, good evening. I hope everybody is feeling well, happy, and enjoying their day. Today is the last series of BPMN specification uh, knowledge so that all of my friends who are working with BPMN can understand. Today, I am discussing about the full set of BPMN annotations and how we are going to use. After that, we will jump into the real implementation of BPM and engine. We'll start with JBPM, then we'll go for activity, and then we will also explore Kamunda's orchestration of processes. Then we will jump into Flowable, how Flowable can help you to write good BPM and good BPM process and the APIs to use for your process automation, your business logic automation, and to build some nice, exciting software if you are designing for banking, healthcare, or fintech, or any other vertical. I hope that this series of BPMN knowledge can help the business education students, the students who belongs to the business vertical, that they can also be a good asset for the software development industry. So if you are a business student and you want to be a business analyst and you want to be part of system analysis, yeah, that you want to analyze a system and you want to write a documentation, which is actually a manual for software or product development. So that's my major interest to explain all of you. So today we are moving toward the full set of BPM specification and hope and keep remain with me and bear me so that we can bring something interesting and knowledgeable. My podcast and my webcast is a bit different from all other kind of webcasts. It's more toward knowledge. It's more toward something that I want to contribute back to my community, my software development community, and my business analyst community. Because when I was working and I was building my product, the problem I faced is the same, that we are not able to find a good business analyst, a good system analyst. We are only able to find software developers. If I go to any universities, the only thing they are producing are software developers or software engineers, which are just a handy tool. They are handyman. They are not the real product owners. They are not real product developers. They are not real the people who are define the process of the technology or process of the events or process of the association of the events, which are direly needed. So hopefully I'm able to contribute to those students who are part of the academia and still in educational sector, but they are lacking. They are just reading the case studies of Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, or something like that, and they are not able to find their their right position into the industry which is booming, that is software development industry. Most of the business analyst or business education, the students who belongs to the business education, what they do, they become the managers, they become the project managers, they become the HR managers in the software industry. But their real presence is the business analysts, system analysts, who can write the good documentation, which is essential for any product uh, registration to the first class countries like US, European countries, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore. So hopefully we will cover up this. We will cover up this gap and sort out the problem, which is the lacking of business analyst and system analyst who can write the proper process diagrams and process association. So today's webinar and podcast, you can say, is we are discussing the full set of process modeling element, how they are working. So what we already have discussed, that we have tasks which are part of activity, we have sub processes which are part of activity, we have association links, we have collaborative links, we have collaborative groups, we have sub processes. We have logical gates, we have conditional gates, we have parallel gates, we have uh, XOR gates, we have events, we have timer events, we have email events, we have custom events, start event, end event, entry event, exit event. So we already discussed in our basic sets of elements in the BPM model. So we already have talked about lane, participants who swim lanes, pools. We talk about data input. We also talk about grouping, text annotation. Uh, we already talk about sequence flows. We talk about association flows. We talk, and here we are not talking about choreography modeling, choreography of processes, sub processes, choreography. We will talk this. I will try to touch choreography when we are talking. We are discussing Kamunda implementations that will help you to understand how we can choreograph, how can we orchestrate our BPM. So the process instance and the tokens. Always remember, when any system initiate the BPM file or BPM process, it create the process instance. That process instance lives from it become into it start living, or it take the birth when the process starts. And that process instance vanished, consumed, or dead when the whole BPM process is terminated or completed successfully. So that process, every application, when they call the BPM file via BPM engine, the process instance is created. So that process instance will remain active during the whole process. Let's suppose I say I want to initiate my loan, so the system will call the loan originating system BPM. So it will create the process instance for loan origination. Then whatever happen, if it is automatically approved or it go for the human interaction, and then it recalls your collaterals, and after the collateral assessments, your risk assessments, either your loan is approved or reject. In either case, the task is completed successfully and terminated. Your process instance will be completed and consumed. Let's talk about patient registration system. As soon the patient registration process is initiated by the nurse, the whole process is called the BPM file or BPM via BPM engine. The medical registration process instance will be created. So when it moves, it and as soon the process instance created, it creates the token. So the token is the instance which uh, gives the knowledge to the system that at what position I am in, at what node I am in. So what node is being processed. If let's suppose talk now we talk about the patient registration system in any healthcare facility. As the patient comes to the counter, the nurse will take your credentials and start the patient registration process. So what happened? Process instance created, instantiated, it creates the token, and the token moves toward the nursing for your ER room, so that you can go for your triage. So the triage people will automatically alerted that is something is coming to you. That is the patient who is coming for the triage, patient X, with this their national ID or passport ID is coming to you. So they will be prepared beforehand as you come to them. So as you come to their counter for your triage and you present your documentation and your the token number, they already know that this is in their task list. So they will perform your healthcare triage, like you're taking your temperature, BP, healthcare history, your allergy history, and then they submit it. As soon they say your triage is completed, the token will move from nursing department to the ER room, where your consultation room, where the doctor is sitting. and the doctor will already be alerted that this patient X is coming toward him now after his triage, and this is his triage report. He can view it before you are entering into the ER room. So as soon you come into the ER room, and he will facilitate your medical history and your and take your medical note. He will create the medical notes, clinical notes. Then he will create a discharge summary or a referral report. If we create a discharge summary, then it means it will create the token with the prescription toward the pharmacy, and then also create another token instance and send it toward the payment or the payment section where you have to pay your bills. It's up to the how the BPM is designed. So that now you can understand that the token is the position. It shows the position of the process. The process instance remain the same. Token instance can be multiple token instance. As you are going for a parallel node, it can be two tokens but belongs to the same process instance. So now we talk about BPM process, pool, and the participants. In So now you know that this is a process instance, and process instance can have at least one token or more than one token. So what is the process in BPM? Process is dedicated as a graph of flow elements, which are a set of activities, elements, gateway, and sequence flow that define finite execution semantic. A pool may indicate a process. A pool is not required to contain a process. I mean, just it can have a process, but it's just a symbol showing what are the swim lane inside. In swim lane mean it is uh, roles. They are the users or the roles who can perform those kind of tasks. Like in banking sector, we have a teller, we have managers, we have a loan approvers, we have a debt collectors. So these all are part of the swim lane, or the upper management or the lower management. And the participant is a person or a role. An organization can be part of the swim of the pool or the swim lane. Now, let's come discuss about the BPM events. We already talked about some of the events in BPM. So, events are the triggers. Trigger mean if the event is called, it triggers something automatically, whether it can be a message event, timer event, error escalation event, or human task or human event, terminate event, parallel events. So, these are the events which are triggered automatically. So normally, most of the time, we use only two kind of or three kind of events: start event, end event, or timer event. Or if we need, we can go for a logical event. We can also write error escalation event. In error escalation event, we discuss about if some error is happening, what to do if something happen, if there is an error. We need to know that if, how to throw an exception. If the exception is being thrown, what need to be done. So that's are the most important thing. And then it's a start event and end event. We will discuss all those events in detail. So now let's discuss about BPM events by type example. Intermediate throwing event produce a new event. We have a terminate event. We can have a we will talk about end event represent final process instance states. We have interrupting event based sub process that if something happen, we can interrupt and can go to some other flow. We have non-interrupting boundary events, start a new process flow. Something happen, we can call it a new process. We have an interrupting boundary events. So these are the boundary events of the whole sub process. We have a start and the begin of the event. We have the email events. Now we talk about BPM and message events. I already discussed that the message events normally are associated with your any message oriented middleware. You can use any MOM middleware based on JMS pack. If we are talking about Java ecosystem, like we can use ActiveMQ, IBM Broker, we can call uh, RabbitMQ if you want to focus on uh, AMQP protocols. So I prefer, if you are working with the Java, go for JMS pack or JMS specification, or any engine who are following the JMS, rather like ActiveMQ or IBM Broker, or anything on AWS also have a broker. So if a message is being need to be sent, and they are always uh, followed by a association flow. In association flow mean they are not directly integrating with each other, rather they are asynchronously triggering each other. So they are asynchronous process start. So so you can have a wait event, like interrupting current start and of an asynchronous task or an asynchronous process. So now we talk about BPMN message event examples. So here, this is one of the customer IT support BPMN flow that you can see. So a new process instance starts with a new order. As a new order came, in case of a block box pool, a message is connected to a pool boundary. In case of reaching end state, the message is triggered, like it's as soon how the people can able to know that the message is being end. So you can use the end event with the message event. You can have a sub process start event. So if the process starts, you can have a message event, like the sub process is initiated, you can want to uh, make a trigger to some of the stakeholders that this sub process is being started. Or if it is you want to add a message event, if the process is terminated or closed, you can add those kind of events. You can add the timer event that you want to suspend something for some time, that if you want to wait for, or you want to delay the process, that you are waiting for some activity to be done. So the signal events, BPM signal events are generated by throwing signal events and caught by catching signal events. So it's like if you have some exception happening, if the some error happening, you can call the signal events. Uh, Still, you can use the normal event, and then you can add your own implementation, that if some what you are going to do if some error happen. So we talk about BPMN signal event examples. So non-interrupting signal events is based on sub-process signal event. You have online store is subscribed to ISP notification. In case a signal event is received, the work continues. However, customers are notified about the potential online store availability. So this kind of things you can do. Like here we can say, note that signal are not directed to a specific target, that no connections. So if you can have multiple, like you can think about BPM and signal event in healthcare, like uh, if the patient has to be released, discharge summary is created, but still do one doctor want to referral to another doctor for a second opinion. So that second opinion can be signal event, but the patient is discharged from that healthcare facility. So now we talk about timer event. So as I told you, the timer event can be a waiting or a delaying activity, that you want that the process should delay till 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 minute. So before moving to an next node, or any other node, that can help to rectify the problem if you are want to have any intervening activity. So that can help out when you are going for a timer event. So these are the timer event that you want to say at 6 p.m. the distribution center stop receiving request, that you have a cutoff time, or wait until 6 a.m. something like in case restart takes more than 5 minutes, IT expert is contacted, like if something got errors, The system is stopped. It creates the error signal. Then your timer will wait for 5 minutes. Then it will, if the things are being sorted out, otherwise, if they are not sorted out, they will contact automatically to the IT expert team so that they can come and rectify your problem. So these kind of timer events are very helpful when we are designing some BPMNs for the telco sector, because telco sector need a lot of timer events, because they can have multiple hops, multiple towers. If one tower is not corresponding, it's very expensive that to send the IT teams from one tower to another tower. So we need to wait that if something is solved automatically or their local team have solved the problems. If it is not solved within that time, then it will trigger the event for the proper stakeholder team that they can come and solve the problem. So error events, when there is an error, you can combine the error events with the timer events. So if error happen, they can initiate the timer event so that the timer event can wait till the error is solved, or if not solved, they can activate the external activity to call the IT expert team in the case of telco and other ISP sector. So an error event is thrown when an activity, task, or sub-process does not end successfully. Like there is any event happen that the token is stuck inside the node. That activity is, rather, let's think about a human task. The human task is assigned to a group or a role. And that role has 5 users. Now, what happens? All the 5 users are not present for that specific amount of time. What should be happen? The task should be terminated after that amount of time, because you cannot keep the node indefinitely into that specific node. The token has to be expired, token has to be retrieved, or or released, so here you can create the throw event with the timer. So that can help you to design the BPM very explicitly. So as a BPM designer, as a BPM, as a business person, you should know this kind of activity when you are designing a BPM for a software, a product. BPM and escalation event. Escalations events are useful for the communication between sub process and processes. It's very interesting, like throw catch. If you are creating an error event, so there must be an escalation event. An escalation event, like you are throwing, somebody is catching, and you are performing something. Like escalation events usually represent a situation where human intervention is required. As I told you, in the case of you are assigning a task to a pool, and the role has a 4 people, and the 4 people are not available, one need to be done. Now come for the automated process. As soon you are going for a applying for a loan, and the loan you go for is less than threshold value. As soon as less than threshold value, you have to approve it automatically, but before approving, there is something happen to that person status, that you can throw an escalation that some human intervention is required. Now talk about healthcare. You go for emergency room, and doctor think you are okay, you need to be released. He created your discharge summary and create the enter, and and you came out of the ER room, and suddenly something happened to you. You fell down. There is some emergency happen to your physical status, your health status. I mean, that is, you need to create an nursing event or emergency event. That at that point you need to have some escalation. Now we talk about BPM conditional and link events. So it's, a conditional event signifies a continuous monitored condition. When condition becomes true, the event is triggered, and the condition is false, uh, it automatically stops. Link event pair throw catch is a visual shortcut for a sequence flow. So always remember, the conditional events you can create. If you don't want to create a conditional event, you can create a conditional logic. In that logic, you can define with your text annotation what you want the person should implement at that conditional logic. Multiple events, we are talking about multiple or like if as condition and parallel multiples. So multiple or we have a start. There are multiple ways of starting the process. Intermediate boundary, catch boundary, only one event definitely is required to catch the trigger. We have end. We have a parallel. Parallel mean we have a one entry point and we have a multiple exit flows at the same time, and we want to create the event when some parallel events or multiple events is being or multiple tasks or multiple flows are being initiated. So now let's discuss about multiple ways of starting a process. Events, when we create this event, it means it's a multiple way of starting the process. We can create the automated by asynchronous way, by synchronous way, by calling a timer event, or by calling a JMS activity, or by calling a human started activity, so that we call a multiple event example. If we can restart is interrupted after 5 minutes or after an error caught, we can make a timer event here, like multiple consequences of an ending the process. I mean, if you have terminating a process, what kind of uh, consequences it can have. It can create the uh, closure of the account, or it can create a closure, creating a like money laundering activity. You can have to trigger the authorities. So these kind of things you need to understand when you are creating a multiple event, when you are multiple activity or multiple event on the closing activity or closing event. So this is the thing when you are creating for your multiple event example. Now let's talk about BPM activities. So activity represent a point in a process flow where the work is actual work is being performed. It can be a task, it can be a sub process. Normally a sub process, and then we can have events. Events can be entry a task event, exit of a task event, entry of a sub process event, exit of a sub process event. And sub process we already discussed is a combination of BPMs or multiple BPMs. Type of BPM activities, we talk about manual task, user task, rule task, service task. Normally, these are the major tasks we talk about. Uh, when it's automated, or we call it a task or a service task, when you are consuming an external services. Then we have a rule task when you are assigning a rule executed by a rule engine. You have a user task when human intervention is required. You have a you can talk about loop task, but normally we never use the loop task. It's there, but we don't need to use. We can use it inside our rules. We have a sub process, we have a collapsible and expanded. Both are same, only is a representation, how you want to represent it into a BPM file. If it is a collapsible, then you need to define that BPM inside that sub process in an external BPM flow. Or if you are using expandable, then you can add it inside it. So here we are talking about BPM task type, service task when you are consuming external services or an automated application. I told you that. That is are the automated tasks. Then we have a user task. These are the more important tasks. We have a user task, meaning the human intervention is needed. We have a business rule task. Business rule task where you are having a business rules and it's executed by a rule engine. Either you can use rules or Gina from Oracle or any other rule engine. Script task normally we never use and it's not recommended. So just focus upon service task, user task, or business rule task. Manual task is also a human task or automated task. So let's talk about BPM and task type examples. I think I will try to conclude my today's webinar or podcast because I want to keep it small so that we can have an engagement. So this will be our last slides for today's BPMN full set of annotations. What I will do, I will create one more podcast for further explanation for the BPMN task, and then after that, I will jump into and explaining the BPM engines, starting from the very oldest one, that is JBPM. Then we will talk about activity. Then we will talk about Camunda and Flowable. So BPMN task type examples, we are talking about send task symbol indicate that task sends a message prior to its end. Like if you don't want to use implements send task, you can create a send normal task with the uh, email event. Like it's a choice. You can create the email event. As soon the task completes, you need to send an email. You need to trigger event which send the email. It's your choice. Service task symbol mean that you are consuming an external web services or REST APIs or whatever you want to use. Even you can initiate or consume a message activity for asynchronous one. This is for business rules that you have your any rule engine file you are for your BPMN nodes. And I will conclude my today's webinar from this slides. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and thank you very much and have a nice day.